Hello, everyone. I'm the Bodacious Cowboy with my co-host, Christy Knichel. Are you ready for a special edition of the Storytelling Chronicles? We are. Let's go.
Look out! Pop, pop, it's showtime. Showtime. Guess who's back again? Oh, they don't know. Oh, they don't know. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Showed up. I'm wearing Cuban links. Yeah. Designer mix. Yeah. Inglewood's finest shoes. Whoop, whoop. Don't look too hard, might hurt yourself. Known to give the color red the blues.
Hello, everyone. I am the Bodacious Cowboy. Welcome to another segment of the Storytelling Chronicles, empowering women into logistics. I'm here with my co-host, Christy Knichel. Our podcast is brought to you by Taft's, Freight Validate, and Tire Software. How are you, Christy?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful right now. It's the beginning of the week. I don't know what the rest of the week's going to entail, but it's been a whirlwind. How about you? You're traveling.
I am traveling. I'm in Jacksonville here having meetings with the CSX, and the weather's maybe 20 degrees warmer than Pittsburgh, but it's around 60, so I'll take it. But yeah, other than that, just, busy and starting that travel season now that the New Year's here. So. Yep.
And I'll be joining you down there in Florida in April. I think don't you go on vacation down there around that time or something like that, if I remember correctly?
Sometimes, yeah. It just depends on what's going on. The TIA is in April as well in San Antonio, I think. So I'll be doing that at some point.
Gotta earn your wings, right? But today we have a great guest, Marina Brown. Why don't you introduce her and we'll bring her on?
Absolutely. So we have a wonderful guest today, Marina Brown. She is the founder and CEO of Moneiva, an AI-powered platform transforming communication and logistics and freight operations. She has been working with AI since 2004 after studying it at USC, and has spent her career leading technology-driven innovation in supply chain, transportation, and payments. I think I said supply chain.
Marina, CSX, come on now.
That's right. Marina has led data science, product, and development teams in delivering AI and automation for some of the largest brands in logistics, Warner Enterprises, and payments, ACI worldwide. Now at Moneiva, she's tackling one of the biggest pain points in freight, manual communication and inefficient processes, by deploying AI communication agents that streamline operations for brokers, shippers, and carriers. One of Marina's proudest accomplishments has been her community work with local schools and universities, encouraging middle and high school girls to enter technology careers. For this, among other things, she won the Tech Champion of the Year award in 2019 by the AIM Institute of Technology. When Marina is not working, her favorite time is just being with her family, regardless of what she does. Let's bring her on out.
Absolutely. Hello, Marina.
Hello, my friends. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
That's pretty good. I heard you talk about the weather earlier, and it is 60 degrees in Omaha, Nebraska today. So I'm happy.
Oh, you're lucky. Wow. Yeah.
Wow. It's only like 47, 48 here in New Jersey. So,
yeah.
It's cold.
Yeah, it is.
I was going to say, we just came off of like 17 degrees last week in Pittsburgh. So I think it's like 41 today in Pittsburgh. So definitely a nice change.
Same thing. And like over here, the temperatures were so cold, they canceled schools for 3 days in a row. Wow. And I tell you, now at least my kids are older and I don't have to worry about them, what to do with them. And, working remote is also another benefit. But when these things used to happen, when I had to go to work and you don't know what to do with your kids on a snow day, it was so complicated. Like, it just gives me shivers every time I have to think about that now.
Yeah. Well, things have changed. So do your kids also have school from home as well?
They don't. They either get their school canceled, and that's in very rare occasions. They go to a private school. So because the school doesn't bus, we don't get out for cold days.
Okay,
Figure
gotcha.
out how to get the kids there. But if there's a lot of snow on the ground, yeah, they will get off. But no remote schooling for us. Which I had this conversation with someone yesterday, actually, talking about the pandemic and the whole remote school situation. And as a working mom, you basically you went psycho, right? Having to be a mom, a wife, a housekeeper, and a working person and an educator at the same time got to be a bit too much. So
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it definitely is. I would say my son's school very rarely have a snow day as well, but when the temperatures were really low, they did have a remote from home school day, which is actually nice. So they don't technically miss school like they used to, and then have to make it up when they're supposed to get out of school.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's fun times.
it is.
Yeah,
Makes it
keeps
challenging.
you young at heart, though, right?
Say it again.
It keeps you young at heart, though, right?
Oh, it does. Oh, I like. I don't know what I would do if it wasn't for my kids, actually, because the whole language and slang that exists these days, I would say I wouldn't understand half of what's being spoken if I don't once in a while hear it from home. And it's funny
Right.
when you think that you know what one word means, and then it turns out it means something else.
Right.
And there's so
Shocking.
many things that I know there's so many things you're no longer supposed to say. And I constantly get told by my kids, "Oh my gosh, mom, you're not supposed to say that anymore." It's like, okay, thanks for keeping me in line.
That's
Definitely interesting.
Yeah, that's hilarious. You bring up a great point. And my first question is this, right? So you've been in the industry for a long time. You just started up Marina, right? You're working out of office or at your home?
All of us work from home. Yes,
Okay,
it's remote based.
right. So how difficult is it managing your household, keeping your business going, trying to be innovative, create new things? How demanding is that for you?
Very, and especially when you're entrepreneur,
Hmm.
when you don't go, hey, it's 5 o'clock and I'm done, because you are constantly thinking about your clients, your technology that you're building, your challenges, your pain points. It never stops,
Hmm.
really. And we're still pretty young, so for a first time last year, my kids never went on summer break because we were like, hey, we need to develop this, and there's no time, right? There's no 7 days or 10 days that you can just break out and forget about work for a while. It just doesn't work like that when you've got your own business. I'm sure you guys know how that is.
Hmm.
And so I would say I try to be good at setting boundaries, especially for my family. One of the values that I was taught very early in starting a family is having to sit down for dinner every night, right? As people these days and family members, things are so busy that oftentimes you just don't have any time to see your kids, and especially as they get to be teenagers, they come home, they throw their bag on the floor, and they run upstairs to their room, right? And so we made it very early on a priority. Every night we will sit down for dinner. And it's a lot of fun, right? Because at that time, like, we have some rules: no phones on the table, no work talk, right? Everybody should feel free to bring whatever problems they have or challenges that they may have experienced. And you just try to share the love around as well, right? Um, and that is probably the only time during the day when, as a working mom and an entrepreneur, your head just clears out a little bit, right? Because let's face it, you want to go work out, you want to go for a walk, you want to go do volunteer activities, and that just gets to be really hard when you've got a business to run. So yeah, it hasn't been easy, but at the same time, I wouldn't change anything about it. I think having your own business is extremely rewarding.
Yes.
Um, I've never worked so hard in my life. Even when I was part of corporate America, I used to think that I work hard. And I think I was working pretty dang hard,
Mhm.
but it was never like this
Until you own your own business.
until that. And sometimes I'm like, wow, was that really the smartest decision? Because let's see, I used to, make a good chunk of change, enough to be able to go on vacations and, not have to worry about overnight and wake up in the middle of the night about all kinds of things that are happening. And life was, I would say, a lot more peaceful. Was that really the right choice?
When you answer yourself and you have nobody else to answer to, yes.
Yeah. Well, and it's okay to feel that way. Listen, we all have, because it is, you put a lot of time and effort into it. You feel like you're neglecting yourself and your family for a period of time. I can tell you it gets better, but it's a roller coaster. It goes up and it goes down and sometimes off the rails. But that's like you said, there's rewarding parts about it, and then there's parts that are just like, why am I doing this? But at the end of the day, I think the answer is always because you want to be better for yourself, your family, especially the future of your children. At least I know that's why I'm building what I'm building. And some days are just very hard. So.
My parents are entrepreneurs. So I'm originally from Bulgaria. And after the Berlin Wall fell down and all that stuff, my parents actually started their own businesses. And so I've always wanted to start my own. And, my dad originally was, you have to work all the time. And I would see him, right, when he would work. It's constant, right? We would be on vacations and I would be like, put the computer down. Can you just focus on us for a little bit? But no, it was constant work. And I should have known that this is what happens to entrepreneurs. But yet I'm like stubborn. I'm like, I'm going to give this a try because I don't want to miss on anything, right? At the end of the day, it's about life experiences, right? You live life. And this is very common of a saying, but at the end of the day, you're not going to regret the things that you did. Most likely, you will regret the things that you didn't do.
Sure.
And I didn't want to miss on the opportunity to start something, build something that was bigger than me, bigger than what I've built so far, something that I think would be a game changer for supply chain and that will help a lot of other people and businesses with their own operations. And so all of these things kind of motivate you. And like you said, Christy, some days are really hard, but you put you get out of bed, you put your shoes on, put your, hat on, and you go like, I'm going forward because at the end of the day, this is going to make a change in someone else's life. And that's why I'm so excited to be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And speaking of that, why don't you tell us about your journey getting into logistics initially, kind of your pathway. And I know you talked a little bit about your business, but, again, getting into that, why you made that decision. I know you talked about it a little bit, but also know that you've already pivoted your business from when you started it. So let's talk about that and just, see what that journey was like for you.
Yeah, so I spent the first, I would say, 13 years of my career in electronic payments and banking. I studied computer science and then went to study AI at USC, came back to Omaha, finished my master's in economics, and then finally, I got a job working for a bank and then a payments company. And it was a good experience at the time because our company had offices in 65 different countries. And you can imagine that you don't really have an office when you're working with the whole rest of the world. And so for a mom at that point in time, telecommuting, they did telecommuting because before telecommuting was a thing, right? And so it was super comfortable, not comfortable, but it was convenient to raise little kids and not have to worry about what happens when they're sick, or when they have a snow day. But things weren't all that peachy. And so after 9 years, I had a little bit lost faith in corporate America. And I found by a miracle Warner Enterprises, one of the technology people there had a job opening. I met with them. I really liked it. And before I jumped ship from my previous company, one of the things I wanted to make sure is I was going to go work for someone with a lot of integrity. And I will tell you, I assume you guys, some of the folks at Warner, and Derek Letters in particular, is a phenomenal leader. And one of the things that I noticed when I was reading, watching videos about them, reading their public statements, they would tell the same thing to their employees, their stakeholders, and their investors and their customers. And that was important to me, right? Because it really shows integrity. And so that's how I got into logistics and supply chain. I went to work for Warner, and we created some awesome technology for the time. Back in 2016, 2017, we were creating AI tech that was connecting to real-time applications, getting the right drivers or carriers matched with the right loads, and a lot of other stuff. Afterwards, I made a couple of other hops, but then ultimately decided I'm going to finally give this thing of entrepreneurship a start. And I will tell you, especially as a mom and you have family, it's not easy to just one day wake up and say, "Hey, I'm just going to start a business." We all know business is so risky.
Yeah.
Right. Starting a business is so risky. You make a lot of sacrifices, both physically and financially. And so when your kids, I felt at that time that it was right time for me, because my kids were mostly self-sustaining at this point in time, that I didn't have to put a lot of physical effort into getting them to school, making sure they have what, they need to be able to go where they needed to go. And I had a little bit more flexibility. And so I started Moneiva. And here's the problem that we tried to solve for, because it's kind of interesting. So when I worked for Warner, and then when I worked for another startup, one of the things I noticed is a lot of the communication around accessorials, and you guys are familiar with accessorials, is all manual, right? Whether you're a factoring company, whether you're a carrier, a broker, shipper, you're either working through email or taking calls, and a lot of the information for accessorials doesn't get found out until after invoicing. And my co-founder and I, especially working at a factoring company, I spent a good chunk of time really picking up the phone and talking with brokers. Hey, is this accessorial going to be approved by you? Because if we're going to pay the carrier for it, we don't want to have troubles afterwards. Yep. And I was thinking, there has to be a more automated way for this to work. There wasn't. And so my co-founder and I said, hey, let's do technology that's going to automate the whole workflow from carrier, broker, shipper, and the factoring company, and communicate all of these accessorials prior to invoicing, right? That was the key, because the premise was, if we can automate the information and we can flow the information correctly prior to the invoicing, then you wouldn't have so many disputes and delays, and people will get paid on time and everybody will be happy. Mm-hmm. Well, it didn't quite work as we thought, and mostly because we couldn't really make the ROI for people. A lot of this is done by people, a lot of that communication is done by people. People waste a lot of time in doing it, but it's not something that gets measured, and it's not a visible activity, right? It's just part of daily job. Mm-hmm. And so it was hard for us to help others make the ROI case. And so we weren't selling as much as we wanted to sell. But one day I'm having a conversation with one of our customers, and, we're trying to figure out how to get the data from the drivers in as near real time as we possibly can. And so my customer goes, you know what? Like, the best way to get the info is if you actually call the driver. It's all well and good, but I wasn't going to staff call centers to be calling all these drivers. And so that's how we stood up our very first AI voice agent. And so based off of certain statuses of that customer's TMS, we would actually make a call, inquire about any accessorials, and bring that information back to our client. And that worked. And then he goes, hey, if you're doing that, why can't you also do check calls? I mean, we spend a good 2 hours every day doing per person, talking to the carriers, doing check calls, validating ETAs. Are they going to be able to pick up the load? Are they going to be on time to pick up the load? What's the driver information so I can start automated tracking and all of that? And so one by one, we took all of these use cases and created a set of voice agents specifically based for operations teams that will automate the communication of all of these repetitive tasks. And what we did is literally we, chained all of these milestones related to the communication events that happen related to a load, and as statuses change or as certain events happen, we make calls, we connect emails, and the goal is to get information to the carrier, to the broker, to the shipper quickly. So if there's any trouble, you can make decisions accordingly. And if there's no trouble, then you didn't spend, 5 minutes per call, either talking to someone or reaching a voicemail, which is what happens, in close to 40% of the calls that you're making, wasting that time instead of trying to do something more productive with it. And here's where the difference happened with our first business. Is before we would struggle to tell people this is how you make the ROI. With this new business, we would walk into a conversation and brokers and shippers were already doing the ROI for us. Okay? They knew exactly how much time their reps are spending, not selling, but doing all of these extra activities. And they knew exactly what that meant from a dollar standpoint. So we have customers, like, for example, one of our clients here in Omaha is say, hey, we're going to grow next year. With your technology, we will grow without having to hire more people. And so it's just took off.
That's awesome. I mean, I love the fact that you realized that what you first came out with, which is a problem. It absolutely is a problem. But I will say one of the challenges I see there is so many customers are different as how they want to be notified and putting stuff in their system or notified a half an hour in advance for detention. Like, it's just so complicated and fragmented, I guess you could say, that definitely would be challenging. That's why I was so interested in talking to you about it. It's like, how do you combat this situation?
Yeah.
But knowing that it was challenging and can't really get that ROI because I think the customers being so particular, being able to pivot your company. I think that is so cool. It's needed in any industry when things change, because you won't survive if you don't figure out what do we do next.
100%.
Can you adapt that to small parcels? And the reason why I asked this, and you probably know this already, that UPS or FedEx has any combinations of like over 560 different types of accessorial charges.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That is like crazy to get your head around, get a good grasp on it. So does your company also have the ability to do that as well?
Yeah, 100%. We actually, I would tell you, because people often that ask me, like, are you just focused on like detention and lumper? And we're like, well, not necessarily. First, we don't discriminate against accessorials. And second, when we first started to write the technology, and I was like, where's a complete list of accessorials? And so we downloaded FedEx's list of accessorios, which was 87 pages long. No joke.
Great. Not a
I'm gonna
joke.
have to look for that.
So I was like,
It's a joke, but it's not a joke. I mean, it's
oh my God. I was like, okay, well, I don't think that we're going to focus because, a lot of theirs is not just about specific accessories, but hey, the package has to meet certain criteria and certain sizing and all that stuff. So not all of them would be necessarily what you and I understand as legit accessories, but there's a lot out there.
There's a lot. That's an understatement.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if anything ever changes with that in the future, and if someone can figure that out. But I just know how that works with the business we have. And some things, yeah, you can probably streamline a little bit. Other things, I think it's going to be very complicated because you're also dealing with other customer systems that they want you to input things into their system along with we have to do in our system. And it's a lot of manual extra work. So
the integration thing is a pain in the neck. Really.
Oh my God. Don't even get me started on the whole integration thing.
Okay, so let's move on.
I have a whole set of notes around. It's really hard. I think it's really hard actually to be a startup in supply chain. And that is because there is so much discrepancies between the technology that's being created. There's no standards. And so one TMS has one set of definitions, another TMS will have a totally different set of definitions. And we used to have that in the payments world as well. And if you were a fintech company, it was super hard for you to make it out there because you had to integrate with, 60, 70 different payment systems, and all of the major banks have their own proprietary technology. And no one would expose any APIs. It was really hard. And then after the financial crisis, actually, once the government kind of saw how big of a struggle this is to stimulate innovation in payments, they actually made rules and demanded that if you have a payment system, you will expose certain set of APIs, and they had certain definitions that now made it super easy for payments companies to really made the integration much simpler, right? And I frankly think from a technology standpoint, we really need something like this because for us, for example, we have to go from one company to another to basically say, hey, can we integrate with you? Hey, can we integrate with you? Can we integrate with you? And there's so many TMS systems out there. And, for some weird reason in transportation, we believe that technology seems to be the only differentiator. And so a lot of brokers, for example, or like large shippers have their own transportation management systems. And so it's really hard to just pick up some steam when you have to spend half of your budget, for example, in integrations instead of delivering new technology into the industry.
So you're talking about proprietary type TMS based systems, right?
Proprietary, yes, but not only, right?
Not only, right? Exactly.
Not only, yeah.
Right.
I mean, how many transportation systems can you name on your 10 fingers really quickly? Probably a lot.
Yeah.
And so,
and what I find, well, I was going to say, and what I find too is usually those companies that are over 300 million tend to then build their own system versus the out of the box, or maybe they take the out of box and build customization on top of that. And with there being so many companies out there, I can only imagine that is a challenge to integrate. So can you talk about that just for a minute? I'm just curious what that looks like, just time, cost, integrating with all these different systems. Like it's not like plug and play, right?
No, not at all.
All these firewalls too, they have to deal with too, like monster amounts.
Oh, it is. So it's a little bit like, have you guys ever heard of the broken window fallacy, right? If you can, the whole story was a boy threw a rock into the baker's window. And now the baker, instead of investing more into new technology to make better and more tasty bread now has to go and spend that money into the fixing of the window, right? And so it's a little bit like this in supply chain and technology. I can spend thousands and thousands of dollars and many, many hours of our resources integrating with every one of these systems. Or if we had better, nobody likes standards, but whatever, if we had better definitions around what some of these systems should be exposing, then I would spend most of my time creating new tech that will make you guys better, right? And that will really push the boundaries of technology and innovation. But that doesn't happen just because you have to spend so much money in grinding through every one of the systems you want to integrate with. So it's difficult. But here's the thing. I think I have a solution. So AI agents are coming into supply chain. And I actually think that because supply chain oftentimes is somewhat backward facing from a technology standpoint, I think AI is going to make huge difference. And what I'm thinking is that exposing and communicating system to system will actually get to be significantly easier, because imagine that you can put an agent on top of your TMS, and that agent is, you don't have to direct it. Hey, this field means this field means this. They have, they can actually easier understand what the definition in your systems are. And when someone asks a question, be able to produce that specific information back without all of the development that we're used to. And so if people were smart, they would develop these agents for the different systems. And so when someone comes and says, hey, I want to integrate with you, you don't necessarily give them the APIs and the standards for your TMS that are completely different from some other people's systems. You just say, hey, here's my agent, and figure out how to connect to them. And now you just basically created agent to agent communication that requires a lot less development and a lot less effort to actually communicate with other technologies. So I think it's a little bit futuristic, but I'm pretty dang sure that's where we're going to end up a few years down the road. So stand by.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've been using ChatGPT and testing some of the waters, and it's interesting to me how it comes back with answers so fast, or helps you make a better email or whatever it is that you're working on. I'm still over here like, how does this work? Like, obviously it's going out and searching for maybe information, but there's other stuff too that I just don't even understand.
Yeah. If you were a TMS system, you can feed your whole, TMS protocol into that agent. And now it knows every time when someone asks for a reference number or load number or dispatch phone number or whatever, it knows exactly what to get. And it does so without all of the development.
In milliseconds.
And yes.
Which is
I mean, APIs are pretty dang fast too, but
yeah.
It saves a lot of effort on the front side. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So curious, with you changing or pivoting your company to these AI agents, I know of one other company out there that was out there talking about, and they're doing it now. How many other competitors do you know that are out there doing this right now?
I know of at least 3 or 4.
Okay.
Least. Yes. And it will get to be crowded. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more companies by the time all of this is said and done. In a way that's good for the industry though, right? Because competition drives innovation, and we're all trying to be better than the other guy next door. And that really drives companies to do more and more, to do better and better, and to do it cheaper and cheaper. Right?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. It drives that cost down when you have the first company come out that's doing it, and then now others. It definitely drives that cost down, and everything you just mentioned.
Yeah, when you look at the first computer though, right? The first laptop, it was like $6,000, $8,000. You bought it, right? 20, 30 years ago, Now you can get them for $349. It's the same thing.
That's right.
The
Yes.
more overlap you have, the cheaper it gets.
100%. It took a while for the prices of laptops to get
Yeah.
down to that level, right? And it will take time for the prices for a lot of this technology to go down as well. Because what a lot of people don't understand is generative AI and generative technology is not cheap, right? And these companies, and we ourselves, we're not, you have costs that you do not yourself control. When you're working with Google, with OpenAI, with Amazon, and all the other models that are available, generative models, they have certain costs, and those costs are not cheap, right? But at the end of the day, the benefit is not just in sending the email or making the phone call or whatever. It's about bringing the data back to you through a variety of different workflows that are specialized to what you want to do with your customers and with your carriers.
With removing the emotions that are tied to it from the human aspect.
100%, yes. And not only that, right? A lot of our clients, the first thing that gets them is after hours.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, hey, I either need to staff or don't staff today for after hours. Well, these agents, they don't sleep, right? And we laugh, but they don't quit.
Yeah.
And so you have a set of knowledge that doesn't walk out of the door when a person quits, right? So there's a lot of benefits to this type of technology that goes above and beyond to just purely what's the cost per call or what's the cost per email or text message and so on.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we appreciate you explaining all of this. We're going to take a quick break and go to our sponsors. We will be right back. Thank you.
Okay, hold on 1 second here.
We are going to start with TIE TMS. They simplify freight management for brokers, offering an all-in-one platform for quoting, booking, and tracking shipments. Learn more at tiesoftware.com.
In the fast-paced world of freight brokering, success demands a battle-ready strategy. TIE TMS equips brokers with the ultimate battle station for conquering a tough market. With TIE, brokers gain access to a comprehensive platform where rate intelligence and quote history converge on a single screen. It's not just a page. It's a strategic command center designed to help brokers win. TIE equips your team with all the data they need to negotiate with confidence and allows them to communicate directly with carriers and customers from a simple control base. Revolutionize the way your brokers perform by giving them a competitive advantage with TIE TMS. For more info, scan the QR code or go to tie-software.com/battlestation.
Freight Validate, the ultimate identity and compliance verification system for the logistics industry. Freight Validate empowers shippers, brokers, carriers, and more to ensure compliance with regulations and mitigate fraud risk. With Freight Validate, you can easily verify entities' compliance status and identify potential threats within minutes. Don't risk your business with unverified carriers or brokers. Choose Freight Validate for peace of mind. Learn more at freightvalidate.com and start your verification process today.
Freight brokers and motor carriers depend on Freight Validate to stop fraud, but they can't do it alone.
Shippers must verify every carrier that comes in to pick up a load.
Hey Siri, check Freight Validate.
Sure, what's the MC number?
123127.
The company you can rent ME LLC is a carrier and cannot be completely validated at freightvalidate.com. The platform is not able to verify information obtained in federal, state, or public sources in regard to identity, risk assessment, or compliance history with 100% certainty. Please follow company protocols for additional safety and compliance vetting. For more information, please go to freightvalidate.com.
Fly-by-night freight brokers, how can I help you?
Mr. Broker, why did you send me this carrier? They are not validated on Freight Validate. Please do not send me any carrier that is not validated on Freight Validate. If you are not using Freight Validate, I suggest you start. I'm sorry, we cannot load you. Your company does not meet our compliance standards. Please call your dispatcher for more information.
Fraud starts with fraud. It ends with Freight Validate.
And our third sponsor is TAFS Inc., which provides transportation factoring solutions to boost profits and increase cash flow for small and medium-sized companies. Contact TAFS at tafs.com to elevate your financial success.
At TAFS, trucking excellence meets unparalleled service. Enjoy exclusive benefits like our fantastic tire discounts. Need cash fast? Try our 1-hour advances. Plus, we're here for you 365 days a year. Need loads? We have a pro dispatch service. This is why TAFS was recognized as the top factoring company in 2023. You'll benefit from strategic partnerships for enhanced operations. Access business loans and manage your finances easily with our client portal, F2 Fuel Card, and mobile app. At TAFS Factoring, we're more than just a factoring company. We're your partner in success. Contact us today to see how we can help your trucking business thrive.
And we are back.
We're back.
Awesome. So I want to go a different direction now. You talked earlier a little bit about raising money. That's something I've never done. I know Jeff probably has not done that either. So it's kind of scary to me, to be quite honest. And from what I know, I think only 3% of women, I think, get the money that's funded out there. So can you talk a little bit about what that was like? Because I know that there's a lot of people out there trying to change that so that it's more balanced, but just curious about your journey and what that was like.
Yes, you're right. Today, and it varies anywhere between 2 to 3% of women who would be eligible for funding ever get funded. And I will be frank, at first, when I don't tend to be a feminist, right? To me, is the best person for the job, gets it. And I've never been one to, have handouts and all of that stuff. It's I'm actually, one of my favorite books is Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. I don't know if you guys have ever read that, but you have good working ethic and you do the good stuff and just the rewards come. And so when I first was kind of started in entrepreneurship and started facing some of this, became obvious to me that, hey, some of my peers will go and present a deck and would get funded with that deck alone. And we will go and we'll have a solution and pilot customers to go with it. And we would be told, okay, we'll contact you back. And then you never hear about them, right? Mm-hmm. And at first I was like, okay, we must be doing something wrong. We actually, one of my favorite experiences of being an entrepreneur was being a part of Techstars. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that technology accelerator. You may have heard of the Y Combinator. So Techstars and Y Combinators are early startup funders, and they bring you in for 12 to 13 weeks of pretty rigid education in what it means to be an entrepreneur, what it means to raise money, how to sell, because let's face it, a lot of people who get into entrepreneurship do not necessarily come from the sales world. That's one of the things that we have struggled with, right? Myself and my co-founder both have technology backgrounds. And so we've had to put a lot of effort into acquiring these skills. But regardless, so they sat us down and had an opportunity to coach us on a lot of things. And after you've gone through this school, you're like, okay, now I'm good. I should not be afraid to go and fundraise. But it's just, it never really materialized. And so, at this point in time, we have decided we're going to go ahead and we're going to get the customers to actually help us continue our business. The difference is, and this is where the discrepancy comes in, why I think it's important and why I think that's an issue that needs to get addressed. Imagine that you have a company that, or imagine you have two companies, right? And one company is just bootstrapping and lining one customer after another. But, they're bringing small amounts of money that they can now add on to their development and R&D process. And so that company takes 3 to 4 years to develop the technology that will fully scale and make it so good that customers will line up to use them, right? And on the other hand, you have someone who just received an investment and funding of like $7, $8, $9 million, right? And they use that to significantly shorten the amount of time it takes to develop that same technology that the other company is going to have to spend 3 years, right? And so by the time the other company that's bootstrapped along the way finally gets there, its lunch has already been eaten, right?
Sure.
So that's where the problem arises. Like, it's not like we should look at people and understand, hey, the potential of what everybody brings to the technology and the pursuit of innovation, not just what people look like, is what I'm struggling with a little bit.
So did you get funding eventually, or where are you at with your business?
Techstars funded us, and so that provided a little bit of a boost. And we have friends and family who believe in the technology that we're building that have boosted us along the way as well. And as we're picking up more and more customers and more names behind our brand, we're hoping that at one point in time that will give VCs the ability to, or the willingness to say, hey, yeah, this is definitely going somewhere, so let's just take the risk. So
yeah, no, I know that whole space can be challenging. I'm familiar with Ernst & Young, and they actually have a women's group, which I don't know if you've looked into it, but specifically to help them get the investment that they need for their business and small businesses, getting off the ground. And I think that that's so great. I didn't realize that was such a problem until probably the last 5 years.
Right. Yeah.
And again, I don't know why, but it's just what you hear out there.
Yeah. And I will tell you, this is another pet peeve of mine is VCs, just like supply chain, is fairly male-dominated industry, right? And I will, sometimes you'll actually come across women that either it's a women focused fund or just women are the partners in the fund themselves. I will tell you, like, conversations with them are even harder than if you sit down with male VCs. And at first that was very puzzling to me. Like, hey, we're a minority. We should be supportive of each other. That doesn't mean you don't have to be tough, but you don't have to go above and beyond what anyone else in your industry would attempt to do in these conversations, in these scenarios. And then really it was interesting to me. So I actually read on about it. And in industries where women are what you'd call like really, really a minority in an industry, the competition among women is even more than it's in other places. Right?
They have to show their strength.
Yes, they have to show that they are as good and as able as their male counterparts. And really that results in like the pendulum swinging completely in the opposite side and being harder on, other female entrepreneurs. It's like a whole thing, actually. And people do talk about it, but there's a difference between us just talking about it and actually someone doing something about it.
So if you're in a room, right, VC, but room half men, half women, are the women overpowering the men from what you're stating right now, showing that strength and that dominance to show that, hey, I'm in charge of this room right now.
I don't think that that's the scenario that I am describing. It's imagine if you sit in two rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And in one room you have mostly male, you know, mostly males, and in the other one you have all females. That like you will definitely feel that difference. I would say it's the best conversations that I have had has been with VCs where there's gender representation. So,
And that's it's just a shame that that's still a big thing. And hopefully continuing to talk about it will make that change.
Yep.
One of the things I wanted to ask you too is mentorship is big for me. And I don't know if you've had mentors along the way, but there's a lot of people that I know that are tech startups, not necessarily doing what you're doing, but I will say they're very willing to share and take a look at your decks and also help you along with that process. So have you gotten any of that kind of help or asked for it?
oh yeah, I'm just like you, Chrissy. I'm a huge believer in mentors, and I wish I had actually realized the power behind mentorship much earlier in my career. It took me a while to actually figure out that, hey, if you want to be successful in life, you should find people that guide you in the right direction. And that's what mentorship really is, right?
Right.
And so I am a true believer in getting mentors and being mentored as I am in actually mentoring others. And so, yes, 100%. Like, I don't think you can actually survive especially as an early entrepreneur without having the right mentors around you, just because there's so much you don't know and there's so much space to be navigated. And you can spend the years trying to guide yourself through it, or you can get the right advice early on and actually cross that bridge much faster and easier.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like you jumped into this entrepreneurship and went out there, took the risk, and then you had these walls, so to speak, that you hit that you had to overcome or pivot and try to change, not just with the business, but then funding, right? And trying to figure it out.
In a way, it's a good thing, right? I mean, imagine the scenario where we did get funded with our accessorial business. I still think that automation in accessorial is going to be a thing, but I think we're a little bit ahead of our time. And so we could have gotten funding and we could have struggled for the next 5-6 years, right? Or we could have said, hey, this is not working, right? Quick fail. This is not working. Let's refocus on something that we actually know people are going to want and they will pay. So, it's not like, it's not necessarily all bad.
Right.
There's reasons for which things happen is my belief. And so in our scenario, I think that was probably a right move. I would have hated to be funded for technology that it would take me the next 5 years to actually bring properly to market, and having all of the pressure of VCs breathing down your neck. So
yeah, I believe that everybody needs mentors, but I'm also a strong advocate for strong disciplinarians, constructive criticism. You need that because you can't be told you're right all the time.
100%.
And if you have the right mentors and the disciplinarians, you don't want to hear it, but you have to hear it in order to grow. It's okay to fail to grow. And that's why I always like that switch from disciplinarian to mentorship. I think it's needed on both sides.
100%. And this, like, that type of mentality filters down to everything that you do.
Absolutely.
I don't hire yes people.
No.
Right? Like, if you're gonna come into my organization and you're just gonna tell me everything that I need to hear, what good are you? Right? I appreciate people that will sit and challenge me, and that sometimes results in not very pleasant conversations, right?
And that's okay.
But that's okay, because at the end of the day, you both grow and the company grows. So it's hard when you just have mentors that are just telling you how great you are. I don't think that's a true mentor, really. Like if you have a conversation with someone and you don't learn anything in that specific conversation, it was a waste of 30 minutes or however long your mentoring session was.
Yeah.
Always hire people that are smarter than you. That's like
Yeah.
number one. That is it. You know, you don't want to. A leader knows how to do that. A follower does the opposite.
Yeah. But it's
That's why I
hard,
get
right?
What's that?
It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And I get told no a lot because I do hire the people smarter than me.
Yeah. It's hard because like if you hire smart people, that means that you have to admit to yourself that you are not as smart, right? And you have to feel you have to have a certain sense of comfort and be comfortable in your skin to be able to say that. And a lot of people are not.
Right. You have to be comfortable for being uncomfortable.
That's right. Yes. And you have to admit that you have flaws. And
you have to say, nope, I don't know, or I'm wrong. People have such a struggle in doing that. It's incredible. It really is.
That's right.
Yeah, I would say for the longest time, I think I struggled like not having to know everything anymore, you know, as I moved through my business and the different roles, and even being out in sales, like when I did dispatch and I wasn't doing it every day. So I wasn't close to it and knew all the stuff I felt I should know. And just, you know, again, it took me years to just be comfortable with like, I don't need to know that I'm in a different spot. And then bringing in those people that are smarter than me, because I will say I'm one person that can certainly admit what I do not know. But I need someone that's going to be able to know those things and figure those things out. You know, and again, like I said, a lot of times I come up with some things and, you know, a lot of times it's always met with, not always, but a lot of times, you know, just different ways of going about it that I would never even think of because my brain just doesn't think that way.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Absolutely. You know, it's one of the toughest roles in leadership to have the ability to say those kind of things and kind of back off. But it's also good for a leader to know a little about a lot of things in their business. They don't have to be an expert. You hire experts.
Right.
You as a leader need to know every little itty bitty inches, square mile of your office and how those operations work. But hire those smart kids, man, definitely all the way.
Yeah. And don't feel like this is one of the things it took me. So I'm 40, about to be 45. Up until I was probably 37, 38. I didn't necessarily know who I was, and I just didn't necessarily feel comfortable with myself. It took me that long to figure out, hey, now I know who I am, and I'm very comfortable with the person and the personality that I represent today. And that changes a lot of things, right?
Sure.
It gives you a lot more comfort to be willing to say, hey, I'm not the smartest cookie in this room, and I need to make sure that smarter people than me can solve this problem. And yeah, but it takes a while to actually get there. And like the whole, what's it called? The
Imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome, right? Is a real thing for everyone. I have
I still struggle with it. You know, I don't know if you do, but I still struggle with it at times. So,
I was a poor delegator. Yeah, I was a poor delegator. I always thought that nobody could do it better than me, and man, it just destroyed me health wise. It really did, you know. Until I backed off and I said, no, control the controllables, and then push everything else that's not controllable by your wayside. Things start opening up. Doors start opening up. You know. Delegation, you know, men, women cross-train each other, having a male know a female job, or their job, I should say, and vice versa. I mean, that's how you get growth in there, you know. So when somebody's not in the office, things need to be done. You have somebody that could jump in and do their job. You know, it's all part of the learning process. It took me a long time to do that, though. Long time.
I still watch my employees struggle with that. I struggled with it. I think everyone does as you move up, you know, and getting them to understand, training the people and passing that off is going to help you down the road take on different tasks and grow as a person.
Yeah, but the thing is what stops you from doing that is failure. You feel you're going to fail if you don't do it yourself. Once you can disengage that feeling from yourself, you will grow as an individual. Your people will grow as well because you're not micromanaging them anymore, and you're giving them their free will and reign to do what they do best. And then when you have, upper operations management team come in, bring those people into those meetings. They're in the trenches every single day. They know the job better than you. Who would know how things are working better than those folks that are, with their troops and digging in every single day? That's a huge mistake on upper management when they don't invite those people in. It's a huge mistake.
Well, very early in my career, when I was still pretty young, and I used to get accused a lot of not being able to see the forest for the trees, right? I'm sure you guys have heard that.
How many have heard that?
And my reply was, well, you've never taken me on an airplane to show me the forest from the top, right? You can't really see the forest from like working in the roots and the bushes there, right?
Yeah. I like that. That's probably the best.
I love that. That's a hot take.
Take people on an airplane and show them, but that's how you do it, Jeff, like you said, right? Take them into those meetings, have them participate in discussions that maybe they're not necessarily scoped to understand or know about yet. But the thing is, it's the yet part.
Yeah.
Right?
They're afraid to hear the truth.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They're afraid to hear the truth because that makes them feel weak.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of
folks get over it.
A lot of people are like really focused on like information hoarding.
Mm.
Yes.
Hey, if I know this, then that empowers me, and I'm just gonna hug it to myself, regardless of the fact that they may have, made a difference in someone else's life or made a difference in your business. But it's about the power, and information is power. So it's just a matter of like coaching people you have to understand that by sharing and by we're all in this together, it's not about you, it's about the whole company, and you have to push the company forward, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a very awesome conversation. I wish we had more time, so we'll have to invite you back again to talk. But before we leave, could you give, some advice maybe on a woman that wanting to be an entrepreneur and going out there and taking those steps? Like, what advice would you give her?
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost, make sure that you have the capacity to be able to pursue something like this. It's hard when you have kids and a lot of other engagements, and mentally it's a challenging journey. So make sure you actually have the capacity, and then find a lot of people that you can associate it with, that can support you. Early on in my journey, I found several organizations here in Omaha that were very supportive of me. We met weekly and we shared experiences. They provided a lot of the mentorship that Christy, you're talking about. So find these types of people to associate with. And my next thing is never start a business without an actual contract with a paying customer. You do not have that in your hand. Do not rely on people that tell you, oh yeah, I will definitely buy that technology from you when you build it. So that will be my most powerful advice for you, is sign the contract first, build the technology later. So.
I wish I knew that before I started mine.
That makes two of us. So.
But we learn from heartache.
Yes.
We like to be punished, I guess, right?
Punished, use the belt like our moms did to us, all that stuff.
Well, and how can people find you, Marina?
Oh, sure. Look me up on LinkedIn is probably the easiest way. I'm very diligent about responding to a message. Not very diligent about marketing myself, but very diligent about responding to people's messages. So look me up there and so we can connect.
We have the same problem. I do the same thing, and I fail to market or brand myself always. You never see me really talking about it, except recently. Someone is like, Jeff, what the hell are you doing, man? You get your own business. Why don't you talk more about it? It's just like,
It's a problem. I'll tell you, like, we should have a total discussion on this alone. But, a lot of people that are doers are not very good at marketers. And that's a problem because the people that are good at marketers but not doers take the front stage. And I have a lot to say about that as well.
I concur.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about that because I feel like that's something I can certainly help with for sure because it is important.
We definitely have to have a powwow and pass the peace pipe on this one for sure.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure being here with you guys. This has been so much fun, and I enjoy hearing your thoughts on a lot of this, conversation, and hopefully it brought some value to your listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we definitely want to get you out there and market yourself, and this is a good platform for you to do that.
We want to hear more about Moneiva. So
yes, absolutely.
There you go. So thank you so much, Marina, for joining Christy and I today. Like Christy said, we had a great conversation. I hope you'll come back and join us in the near future. I wish you the best of luck as you grow your business. I'm sure that you will. I know you got a lot of followers, that you're at a lot of events. That's where you and I met. I think it was a broker carrier summit not so long ago. So we had a good conversation there. So I wish you the best of luck, in your new endeavors. And I hope that your technology grows faster than anybody else's, and someone else will say the same thing, so.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Amen to that one.
There you go.
Yourself out there. So
yes,
that's right.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for watching this episode of the Storytelling Chronicles, Empowering Women into Logistics. This is episode 27. Until the next time with a new special guest, enjoy the rest of your week and we'll see you soon. Take care now.
Bye, guys.
Bye.